Hey, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to share with you how I managed to integrate an analog summing system through the use of Harrison Mixbus. And the way I do it, in a nutshell, is by using the Mixbuses that are comprised of parts of Mixbus to create stems on which I am outputting certain sections or certain elements of a mix based on stereo pairs. You will see how it works, and believe me, once I integrated this analog system to my whole rig, well, the sound of my mixes has improved to the roof. You'll see. But before we go, if this is the first time on the channel, I welcome you because in here I share with you every single thing I do in order to create, write, produce, and of course perform my music live, because I know that making a living as a musician is not a dream, it's a possibility. And if I can do it, of course you can do it. With that being said, let's rock and roll. Here we go. What you're about to see is an excerpt from my live stream on which I'm mixing a song from start to finish. So I will encourage you to watch that live stream once this video is over so you can see the entirety of the presentation of the information contained in this video in the full context of it. Let's continue. And I'm going to turn off the fancy toys for now because it's going to be fun once I bring them back, okay? So from the top, let's listen to the track. It's time for you to make your own mental notes, so pay attention to everything going on. Here we go. You can see over here, girls and boys, that on my Mixbus area, my master output, it's turned off. Why is that? It is due to the fact that I'm outputting my channels, the Mixbuses themselves, through the use of a hardware output, which is one of the outputs on my main converter, which is the Antelope Audio Discrete 8. The entirety of this system is based on the idea of analog summing. What is that? One of the devices that I have here at the studio is known as the D-Box Plus by BardonMusic, which is a great monitor controller but also has a particularly effective and great sounding summing device, which in a nutshell, as the name implies, sums up the outputs that I send out from my main converter and sums them up and turns them into a stereo pair, which is then sent back to my mixing rig through the use of an extra converter, which I will tell you more about it later. Even though I will be using my analog summing stuff for this session, I will be mixing the entirety of the individual instruments through the use of the software that is inside of Harrison Mixbus. And as you can imagine, this is basically speaking the description of a hybrid system. So I am outputting the sum of the drums, the sum of the kick and bass, the sum of guitars, the sum of background vocals and keys, nasty, and blah, 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 blah. All of them are coming out through different analog outputs. They are being summed up over here. Through the use of the analog outputs of my Antelope converter, I'm able to send to the real world the elements of my mix in an independent basis. Of course, I only have up to 8 channels at my disposal at the moment, so I gotta be intelligent and clever on the way that I spread out the signals. I'm gonna be turning on a pair of devices here that are actually affecting the sum, the stereo sum. Everything is gonna go through it, and it's gonna change the sound of the mix dramatically. You will notice as soon as I insert them in. Okay, from the top. Here we go. Make sure that it's from the top. It is from the top. Here we go. It gave us a much more better cohesive sound between the and relationship between the kick and the bass. Once the summing of my channels happens in the D-Box, the output of it, which is the stereo mix, hits the first element in my signal chain, the color palettes, which are fantastic devices that, basically speaking, are just color boxes, as the name implies, which is based on a series of circuits that you can integrate and cascade into each other to create a particular tone. From there, I output back into the final stage of my summing bus for this particular mix, which is the main converter. You'll see more of that later. But I'm using two circuits. One of them, it's a low pass filter. It has a low cut at 30 hertz, if I recall correctly, and it has a slight bump, harmonically distorting. I'm talking about a saturation circuit which has a low cut that has this beautiful tendency of tightening up the low end, as you saw. Then it cascades into another saturation device, but this guy is actually adding a little bit of top end. We're talking about a little bit of 8,000 hertz, if I recall correctly, which adds a lot of air. The transients that are part of the snare become more palpable, and it's adding a little bit of life. That's the magic of analog stuff, girls and boys. There is non-linear. There are many things, including the fact that they are not necessarily reacting the same way, because it's not digital. It's not a digital recreation. Each of those devices are working independently, and they're doing whatever they have to do with the signal received, adding this sense of three-dimensionality. That's why it's very hard to create true-to-life emulations in software. Very good. There is another trick in my sleeve that we're going to use from the real world. I'm going to be adding another a layer of transformer saturation in the shape and the form of the fantastic transformer found on the Convert AD. My main converter is the Convert AD by Dangerous Music again. You're starting to see some form of fanboyism around a particular brand here. But being frank, it's the best converters I ever tried. It's a fantastic sounding device, and one of the things I love about it is that it comes loaded with a particularly beautiful sounding transformer that adds extra harmonic content, which is the renowned je ne sais quoi, to wherever you throw at it. Let me show you how it sounds like in the mix. I'm going to insert it, and as soon as I insert it, you're going to notice it. Okay, here we go from the top again. By the way, if you happen to like this kind of content, let me know by clicking on the like button underneath. Let's continue. One of the things that it's doing is actually creating extra harmonics in the top end and a little bit on the mid-range. I have not pushed the potentiometer here that actually increases the amount of harmonic content being created. It's just going through right now. And you saw how detailed, particularly the guitar parts, became. And also the stereo spread once again felt a little bit wider. Mm-hmm. When in reality we're not doing anything, any form of widening yet. Now let's add more sparkle. Pay attention to how well defined our top end is gonna become. Particularly you're gonna hear it on the snares, the guitars, and the what's the name of those? The overheads. There is a point on which we're gonna add too much of it, okay? Because I'm gonna be gradually increasing the amount of harmonic distortion applied to the mix. Here we go. Okay, what do you think?
The difference is insane.
Insane, right?
Yeah,
insane.
The whole thing is projecting a lot more energy.
100%.
It's a lot more focused.
Yes.
Well, it's better on every front,
It's simply
actually.
better. Again, the harmonic distortion being applied. Just because I said it's gonna hit the high end doesn't mean that it's just gonna particularly be focusing on that particular section of the sound spectrum. What it's actually doing is affecting the entire mix. Of course, those harmonics, they are creating more subdivisions of them, adding more texture to everything. And I'm gonna be turning on and off these guys, both at the same time. So you're gonna be able to see how much the analog stuff is actually doing to the track. Ready? Here we go. Okay, what do you think? Is that good that it's not funny?
Yeah, the thing is, it's kind of hard to describe because it's making such a big difference on so many fronts that it's not something that you can say, it's the high end is a little bit smoother. No, everything is better.
It's just better.
The track is coming to life whenever you bring the gear.
Great. And I usually have those bad boys always on. The only one that I modified is this guy, the transformer at the end, because it's the one that I do to taste based on whatever I'm working on. But damn! So there you have it, girls and boys. What do you think? To my ears, it's quite clear that analog stuff actually still has a place in the mixing studio because it's unbeatable. The sound that you get out of those boxes is fantastic. The problem is that they are quite, well, big. They occupy quite a lot of space. They demand energy, of course, so increasing the cost in electricity, believe it or not. That's something that you have to consider when you're running a professional venture such as this one. But also, the maintenance cost is insane. And the more boxes you get, well, you can imagine what happens to the maintenance bills. Do I recommend them? Yes, but you gotta get them when the moment is right. Because you'll see that when you get gear that is fancy, if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna end up getting terrible results, and you're gonna put the blame on the box rather than on yourself. So work your way up until the point in which you're good enough to hear the differences and learn how to work with them, because plugins, believe it or not, are quite similar in the way that they behave when compared to the real deal. And if you practice by using plugins, once you get enough knowledge and your budget allows for it, go for the boxes, and you're gonna see that the results are gonna get even better than before. So that's it for today, girls and boys. I hope you got something good out of this video. If you'd like to support this kind of content, the best way to do it is by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also by following us on social media such as X and Instagram, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis. With that being said, girls and boys, the only thing that has to be reminded to you is that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember, I will see you when I see you.